Here's what I made today. Doesn't that just look delicious? Egg noodles with slow cooked pork and mushrooms with gravy. It is just delicious. I'm going to taste a little bit of it here for you before we start so you can kind of see what it looks like. There's some egg noodle with the pork. You guys got to watch this just so you can learn how to cook this yourself for you and your family and friends. This is so good. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to Glow's Kindred Kitchen, and I'm Glow. Well, today it's early morning. I'm getting ready for work, but I decided to make some pork and noodles for dinner, and how I do it is I usually cook it in the crock pot if it's during the week, so that when I come home it's easy to put together for dinner, and I just thought I'd show you how I do it. So let's go ahead and get started. Here I have a pork butt, and I got this particular one for 97 cents a pound. And I cut off some of the fat that was on that side. In fact, I'll show you what I've got left. That's about the amount of fat that I cut off, because we don't need all of that in this dish. And what we're going to do first is I have my pan here preheating. I have it on low right now because I'm going to sear this roast before I put it in the crock pot. So I'm going to just lightly salt and pepper this. This is probably 2.5, 3 pounds. When I get these pork butts, when they're on sale, I ask the butcher to cut them in half for me. And sometimes I ask them to put it in quarters, because it's just usually the two of us for dinner. And when you ask a butcher to do that, they're usually more than happy to help you. Let's turn it over. And this roast I brought to room temperature also. I like to bring my meats to room temperature when I'm doing stuff like this. I think it turns out better. The reason I'm just lightly salting and peppering this is because of the seasonings I'm going to be putting in when this roast cooks, and we'll go over that here in just a little bit. So the next thing I'm going to do is, this is what I keep my flour in. This is all-purpose flour. And I'm just going to lightly put this on this roast. And before I start touching stuff, I'm going to go ahead and put the oil in the pan. I put just enough to cover the bottom. Maybe just a tad more. So that's probably 2.5 tablespoons at the very most. And then I'm just going to rub this flour on this roast. Any more. Always try to keep one of your hands kind of clean, or you need to keep it clean when you're using stuff like this. That'll be done. And see, you're just lightly doing this. By flouring it ahead of time when you're going to sear it, it's going to give it flavor, and it's also going to help thicken your gravy that you have in your crock pot. And when I come home, if it's not thick enough, I'll just thicken it up a little bit more. But you also got to remember, too, that the noodles are going to help thicken this as well. Okay, so see how that flour is starting to sizzle in there? That's an indication that your oil is ready for you. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. I laid it fat side down, even though there's not that much fat in there. So I'm going to turn this up to about medium low, and I'm going to wash my hands first though, so I'll be back in just a few minutes. Hi, well, this roast has been browning here. Let me get where there's not the bones. Let's see what it looks like. Oh yeah, look at that. When your roast releases so easily like that, when you're going to flip it, you know it's time. If it's not releasing, it's because it hasn't browned enough yet. So look how pretty that is. So I'm going to go ahead, this was 5 minutes. So we're going to let the other side, brown a little, and then I'll do the ends and the sides as well. So I'll be back again in just a little bit. Hi, well, welcome. I just got done browning this roast on all sides. It took just 12 minutes to do all the sides. And when I say sides, the ends, the sides, and this, and the bottom. So that's not bad. So now I'm going to take this roast, and this roast does have a bone in it, and remove it from this pan. And I'm going to put it right in my crock pot. So by having everything close by, it really does help. It cuts down on a lot of things, like a mess, for one. And clean up, I'm all about keeping it simple. So see this pan here?
Yes.
This is pretty hot. But as this cools, I will take some of these drippings out after I get some of that grease out of there, because that is my friend for my roast in here. So, but we don't need all of that grease. So I'm gonna stop for a moment. I'm gonna remove this grease, and I'll be back to show you the next step. Well, I just removed the grease from the pan. I wanted to show you how much grease there was that I removed. See, I keep a little jar all the time that I keep grease in. At the end, the part that's the most yellow, that is the fresh grease there. So there was a couple of tablespoons in there. I did leave a little bit in the pan, and the reason being is I'm gonna use that to saute a half of an onion, and this is a yellow onion, but you can use whatever onion you have on hand, and one stalk of celery, or rib of celery. And I'm gonna let that saute for a few minutes, so I'll be back just as soon as it starts to get a little translucent. Well, our celery and our onion here are cooking away, and I gotta tell you, I wish we had smell-o-vision so you guys could smell this. This is delicious.
Smells good, Miss Flo.
Smells so good.
Really smells good.
So, and I also took 1 clove of garlic and I smashed it with a little wooden mallet that I have. And I'm just gonna add that. And you don't wanna cook garlic very long because it will burn. So this one, I'm just going to swish it around in here. 30 seconds is plenty for garlic because it's going to be cooking away in this anyway. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And we're going to put this right over this roast. Get a couple hot pads here to help us out. Oh, it looks so good.
It does.
Someone would invent smell-o-vision, they would be a big hit overnight. Problem with these big old pans, they're great for cooking, but they are heavy. So, it's hard to get everything up. Let's see if I can lift this. There we go. You could use that as a weapon if someone were to break into your house. They are heavy. There we go. So now we're going to talk about the ingredients that I put in with this. The first thing I do is I have a can of cream of mushroom soup. And I've already opened it, and I'm going to just put that in right over the roast. And of course, if you were doing a bigger roast than this, you would want to put more, but this is all we need for this. And if you don't like mushrooms, use a different kind of cream soup if you want. Or if you don't have a cream soup, you could use your pan and make your own roux right now. And you can make your own, cream of soup. And I do that quite often. I just had that on hand, and since I'm going to work, this was quicker for me. Then I have onion soup mix. This is the brand I had on hand, so that's what we're using. There's nothing wrong with it. This is a half a pack, so we'll see what this looks like. If we think we need more, we'll add more. I think I'm going to add a little bit more. I don't know how I ended up with 2 half packs, but I had 2 half packs in that box, so I'm going to just add a little bit more. I think that's plenty. So then the next thing that I add is I add a little sage, and this is rub sage. And I usually rub it in my hand, and that gets the herbs, they awaken up, because they've been sitting in these jars here, and it just kind of helps them. And I have thyme leaves. I'm going to do the same thing. So about a half a teaspoon of each one. Just rub it in your hand like that. And then what I do, and if you guys have watched some of my videos, you know that I'm a big fan of teriyaki sauce. It just adds a lot of umami to whatever you're cooking. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of that on. This is the end of my bottle here. And I'm going to put some water in this because I don't believe in wasting, and there's still some stuff in here. So let me put some water in it.
You have another bottle, or is it time to reorder?
Nope, I got another one I already opened just in case I needed it, but I think I got enough here.
Didn't see it up there.
I'm just going to put that around the bottom there. So that was probably like a half a cup of water. And then I've got 2 bay leaves. They're small ones. If I had a large bay leaf, I would have just done the one. And what I do is I just stick that right down into that cream of mushroom soup. And then, let's see, I have everything. Now what I'm going to do is I warmed up some water here. Let's see what I'm starting off with, 6 cups. I won't need all of it, because what I'm going to do is I am going to just pour enough water to come up about 1/3 on that roast. So that's about enough. This roast is going to make a lot of juice itself, so you don't need a lot of water at all. Sometimes I don't even add water, but since I'm doing pork and noodles for dinner, which is like chicken and noodles, I want to have a really nice broth. So that's why I do that. And then what I do is I take a little red wine, dry red wine, and I just add that. That's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. So between 1/8 of a cup and 1/4 of a cup. If you don't like to put wine in your food, by all means don't. But it does add a lot of flavor, and it helps tenderize your roast as well. So then
don't drink the rest before you go to work.
Oh no, it's too early in the morning. So all I have to do now is to turn on my crock pot. So let's get that plugged in. And we're going to turn it on. And I'm going to cook it for 8 hours. So it'll go on to low before I get home, but that's perfect. And then when I get home, I'll show you the next step. But this is just a wonderful meal to make while you're at work. And when you come home, the house just smells awesome. I was going to share one other thing. I don't throw that fat out that I cut off my roast. I save this. I use this in soups and all different kinds of little things. And so when I make a bean soup or something and I need a piece of this, I'll just cut it off and use it. I'll put this in a freezer bag and I'll put it in my freezer, and of course I'll always mark what it is. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tonight. Bye. Hi, well, I just returned from work, and I got to tell you, the house smells wonderful. And it's so nice to come home knowing that you don't have much to do to prepare your dinner, and your house smells so good. So anyway, let's take a little peek here at our roast. Oh, look at that.
Looks good to me.
Now it's been on warm for probably a couple of hours because I had it cooking for 8 hours and I've been gone longer than that. So let's go ahead and take this roast out. I'm sure it's very tender.
Should be after all day.
Oh yeah. It's falling apart.
Don't
That's what you want.
Don't drop it.
Oh, this is going to be delicious. Look at that.
Looks good.
So I'm going to set that right down here for a moment. And there. That's got to cool so I can kind of pull it apart for the noodles. But let's just take a look here at what we have going on in here. I know I'm going to have to thicken it, but I wanted to have enough gravy to go along with it, and that's why I added that extra water. So I'm going to sample it so we can see what it tastes like. There's hardly any fat in here. Oh, delicious. I'm just going to put that spoon in that warm sudsy water there. So, I need to tell you that before I left, I remembered I had not put extra pepper in here. So I sprinkled some black pepper on top and let it, maybe like a half a teaspoon of it. And that was the only additional thing I added to this. So I'm going to turn this on here now to high to warm up because we're going to be putting some cornstarch in here to thicken our gravy. So right now I have a pot of water boiling so that we can do our noodles. Just going to set that lid over there. And before I put the noodles in, I always salt my water. And what you want is you want your water to taste like seawater. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. That's a good teaspoon and a half probably. I'm going to stir it. You don't want to put your salt in your water until your water is real hot. Reason being, if you put your salt in there and it settles in the bottom for very long, it will pit your pot.
Don't be a pot pitter.
So you can see the water's starting to come up to a boil again after putting that salt in there.
Yes.
Let me turn it up higher. These noodles will probably take 8 to 10 minutes to cook, maybe a little longer. And these are egg noodles. I forgot what they're called, but they have, I'll show you. That's not a very good example. See how they have the ridge along the side? I forgot what they call it.
Yes.
But they're an egg noodle. They're like a fancy egg noodle. So we're going to go ahead and put some in here for us.
Those are ones from Aldi's?
They don't have these all the time, but if you have an Aldi's by you and you run across them, by all means get them. They are delicious. But any egg noodle would do for this recipe. I think we're going to cook a few more. I don't know about you, but I'm hungry tonight. It's a really cold, rainy day here. It started off pretty nice this morning, but it got colder as the day went on. You can tell winter's in the air for sure. So this is a perfect meal for tonight for us. There we go. So we're going to let that come up to a boil, and once it comes up to a good boil, I'm going to turn it down because you don't have to have it at a full boil the whole time. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to move this so you guys can see what we're doing. Let's see here. I'll put this up to the front for a moment. I'll move this back over here. And I'm going to put the top on of the crock pot back on so that it'll warm up faster for us. to put that cornstarch in there to thicken up. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be sauteing some mushrooms because we like mushrooms with this. And that's about a tablespoon of butter. And if you noticed, I did not add any oil to this pot of noodles. There's no need for it. And besides that, your sauce won't stick to the egg noodles if you do that. So there we go. So that's doing fine. And the butter's starting to melt for the mushrooms. So let's take a look at this and see how we're doing with this. So there's part of the bone that we had. And that bone adds a lot of flavor to the broth and to the pork. But what I do, well, this is just going to be delicious. See how that just pulls apart like that?
Yes.
So I usually just pull it apart like this. So you have, kind of large pieces. Of course, if you had children, you would want to make sure that it was a little smaller so it's easier for them to eat. But this roast is going to be awesome. And I'll probably only pull about half of it, and then we'll keep the other half for, something else probably. We can use this for many things. I could use it for a soup. I could make pork and rice, or pork with mashed potatoes with the gravy. Pork is very versatile, and it is so reasonably priced compared to everything else in the store right now. Like I think I told you this morning, I got this roast for 97 cents a pound. So that's a steal. Today's prices.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So even though prices are high, if you shop your specials, you will be doing yourself and your family a huge service and have a delicious meal. So let's take a look at these noodles. You want to stir them occasionally as they're cooking. And I'm going to go ahead and, here's my mushrooms. And I'm going to put them right here in this butter that already melted. I actually think I need to add a little bit more butter to this. So now I'm going to just move this pork up here a little bit so you guys can see it. Now you always want to make sure you get your bay leaves. There's one of them right there. And the other one may very well be here in the gravy. We'll find out.
Hand me a fork.
Let's take a look at this gravy now. We're going to add cornstarch to it. I just turned the mushrooms down if you're wondering what I was doing, because I'm going to be busy with this other for a moment. That way they don't get away from me. So what I'm going to do is this is cornstarch, and I'm going to start off with a couple of tablespoons of this. Actually, maybe 3. 2.5 to 3 is there. And I'm going to add some water to this. You want to add cold water to it. And we're just going to stir this up. You can use a coffee cup for this, a glass, whatever, or a little bowl. Main thing is you want to get that cornstarch mixed up in this where there's no lumps. I'm going to turn these noodles down just a little bit. Okay. So let's see if you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to slowly pour this cornstarch into here. And the reason I'm doing this is to thicken this gravy up, or the juices. It's like a broth right now. And when you put the cornstarch in there, it will turn color at first, but once it starts, cooking in there, it'll get back to its normal color. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on that and let it come up a little bit in temperature. And I'll be back in just a little bit. I'm going to let these mushrooms saute, the noodles to cook, and to finish this. So I'll be back in just a little bit. Well, my noodles are all cooked. I put some of them in here in the bottom of this bowl. I have about 2 cups of the pork here that I have pulled and shredded a little. My gravy here is ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour some of this gravy over here, over the top. I did add a little extra cornstarch to this. There was probably 3 tablespoons of cornstarch that I added to that. And I got to thinking about it when I was on my way into work. I don't think we actually discussed exactly how much water I put in this morning. There were about 3 cups of water total that I had put in there.
Fine.
Doesn't that look delicious?
Sure does.
Oh yeah. And look at all that pork we still have left. And we'll probably add a little bit more pork to it. But oh, this is going to be delicious.
And the mushrooms.
Yes, and we'll put the mushrooms on top when we serve it. And I'm serving this tonight with it's a vegetable medley that I had gotten. It's frozen, and this one tonight has carrots and broccoli and sugar snap peas. So anyway, I'm going to let this set here for a few minutes, and then we'll plate it up and we'll give it a try. See you in a minute. Well, I wanted to show you this. I put it in the bowl. I put the noodles in it first, then the pork. Then I poured some of that gravy over it and put the mushrooms in and mixed it up. And then I sprinkled some parsley on it. So now I'm going to go ahead and try it. But by doing it this way, your noodles soak up some of that gravy and everything gets happy together. It's just a great meal to serve for entertaining or family or just yourself. And look at all this roast I still have left. This was so far the only part that we can't eat. There's a little fat, there's a bone there. I found the other bay leaf that was in the gravy. So, but by doing this, I haven't added any other seasonings to this than what we did this morning, except for the parsley. So I'm going to try one of those noodles first. If you make this, make sure you use a good egg noodle. It just adds to it. And this pork, oh. Oh, what a great meal for a cold night. I know Richard's looking forward to trying this too. And then here's the broccoli, and there's a sugar snap pea and the carrots that I steamed that in the microwave. This is just delicious, you guys. You gotta try it. When you try it, let me know what you think and give me a comment. And if you make something similar, I'd love to know how you do it. That's the fun thing about cooking and sharing ideas and recipes. And that's how I learned how to cook. You know, after I got married, I learned to cook at home, but learning new techniques and stuff, it was just it was a whole eye-opener for me, sharing stuff with friends and neighbors. But anyway, if you'd enjoyed this and you would like to join us, please subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate it. And give me a like and a comment. I hope you've enjoyed this. Talk to you later. Bye.